everybody, this is Lee, and I just thought I'd make a cute little video here real quick. One of my favorite people on YouTube is Charlie Is So Cool Like, and if you haven't heard of him, definitely check him out. I'll put a link right here. It should be right here between my fingers. What I have in mind is a response to how to make a cup of tea. Good old tea bag. A look. Now this is Lipton's green tea, and as you can tell, I mean already, it's really tiny. So let me just go ahead and open this up. This is what's in most tea bags that you get. Gonna dump that out. I'm not gonna be drinking it. So, but I mean, just look at that. I mean, let me zoom in. I mean this. I mean, just feeling it. It just feels like dust, and that's practically what it is. Again, this is supposed to be a green tea, and you know, even for a green tea, that's pretty dark looking. Well, let me find one of the black teas I have here in stock. Here we go. We're going to be looking at black tea that I got at Tivana that is called Lady Grey. As you can see, like its name, it's black, and it is very dry. So, but you can see it is rather large. Generally, the way black tea is made is they get the leaves of the tea and they dry them. There's different ways of drying them. So let's go to another type of tea. So I'll put this to the side. The next tea I'm going to show you is, however, let me just get some of this out to show you. So here's the green tea. Get that in focus for you. So again, these leaves are pretty big and dry too, but they're bigger than the black tea. And this is a little old, this tea, so I can't really get a good smell out of it. But this is green tea, so it hasn't been dried and cured. I like to say cured, but it hasn't been dried as much as the black tea. So as you can see, the leaves are bigger. And then, so you have the flower petals in there because it is cherry blossom. But the leaves are bigger. Not as crunchy. I mean, they are still dry, but not as much. So there's the green tea. And again, let's bring in the black tea so you get a side by side. Here's another tea that's really good. And it's kind of deceiving because it's called tea. But there's really no tea in it at all. A little bit there. Again, this has no tea whatsoever in it. It's basically just an herb. And no tea, but very dry. Now, this is good for your allergies and such. And a lot of companies are putting this in to a lot of different kind of drinks, not just tea. But again, this is rooibos, also known as red tea. And again, no tea leaf in it whatsoever. So you don't get the properties of tea itself, which tea does have some really good properties in it that are good for health and such, not just taste. So that's red tea. And then the last tea is probably one that you are familiar with. I'm going to move this to the side. This last one is mint tea. And just like rooibos, there's no tea in it whatsoever. So, I mean, their bags are new. This is their new design for the past few years. It's a very thin mesh. It's full leaf, very nice looking, very aromatic. But again, no tea whatsoever. You put the tea in, fill it up with water. I marked 8 ounces, so this is a two serving cup. So you put your water in. I'll go ahead and do that over here real quick. Be right back. Now the cool thing is, imagine there's some tea in there, and it's ready. You just get this, and it strains it for you, leaving all the little tea leaves in here, and all the yummy goodness down here. Now again, this is the older model, and the only flaw that I really saw in it was that you couldn't take the filter out. So sometimes tea would get stuck in it, and after you brew so many types of tea, eventually it does get stained on the bottom. But they've fixed that, so now you can take it out. And again, I'll put a little link right here so that you can go to Tivana and get one of these, because these are a coffee press. Same principle. You know, you put your tea in, put some water in, and you have that nice little filter, which was really good for the rowboats because it kept it in place. And I would just let it breathe, and then when it was ready, I'd plunge it down and drink it. Now, for the press, I tend to use something that does not go bitter. So don't use black teas, white teas, don't do those. Do herbals, do Robos, things that don't go bitter the longer they're brewing. Okay, so I like a big cup of tea. So I went and got my big mug out, and I think this is about 20 ounces or so. Now the thing is when it comes to tea, and coffee as well, everything's measured in about 8 ounces. This is an 8-ounce glass. So, kind of gives you an idea. But yeah, everything's based on an 8-ounce portion. So when you do your measurements, if you want to get the right amount of water to the right amount of tea, think 8 ounces. Now, the rule of thumb is that you use a teaspoon. Now, generally what they say is like 1 teaspoon for every cup. So for every 8 ounces. So of course you need water. I always suggest, I like to boil it on the stove. I don't like to microwave it. I just think this is, I don't know, for me it makes it taste better if you don't do the microwave. So always start with filtered water. You know, warm, whatever you want to call it. I like to call it preparing. So I like just to get the mug a little warm and obviously make a mess. So now I'm ready for my tea. 1 tea bag. Now if I want to make it stronger, obviously I'd put 2 in. And again, since this is a black tea, I want to have boiling water. And just, you know, I always like to help it along a little bit by stirring it while it's in there. Just give it a little helping hand. So, now since this is a black tea, I'm going to let it sit for about 3 to 5 minutes. And then that way I don't worry about it getting bitter or over brewing. And rock candy sugar. It's called German rock candy. It's, again, something I got from Tivana. And it just kind of grew on me. And it's just pure sugar. Kind of like sugar in the raw in a crystal form. And it actually melts really nicely, and you don't need that many to make it sweet. And I tend to like a sweet cup of tea, and I don't need that many in there. So, and it's less processed, so it's better for you too. So let that steep for a little bit, and then we should be ready to go. Okay, and now the tea is done. I'm in my office, ready to enjoy. So I don't like to add milk to mine, but if you can, go ahead. But a warning. If your tea has anything in it, especially the herbals, such as orange or lemon, you definitely be careful when you add the milk because it can curdle. I don't think it's going to make you sick, it just might taste a little funny. So anyway, so take your tea bag out and discard it. Oh, I can smell the vanilla and the black tea, and it's a very warm, comforting scent. So, see if I made it sweet enough. I did. There's how you make a cup of tea.